Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Gardner. I'm not Peter Morrell. I'm not the moderator. He is. I'm the General Secretary, and due to Peter being really rather unwell, I will be your MC for this evening. And we're going to invite Uncle Alan Edwards to welcome us to country.
Thank you, Phil. I've really been looking forward to this evening, the 30th anniversary of the covenant between the Uniting Church and the Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress. Being a member of the Covenanting Committee, I've learnt a fair bit over the last couple of years, but I'm really looking forward tonight to hearing from Aunty Denise and Uncle Mark, Uncle Ken and Deirdre, and also, just as importantly, from the younger people involved in this, to see their views and how they see us moving forward. The land we are gathered on this evening is a traditional land of the Kaurna people, whose traditions, culture and beliefs are still practiced today as they have been for thousands of years. I acknowledge those of you here from other areas, other countries, other cultures, and respect that you too have your own traditions, culture and beliefs. Also pay my respects to all of our elders, past, present and future. For without our elders, we wouldn't have the stories, the knowledge and the wisdom that we all possess today. As a local Kaurna Gugga man, I'd like to welcome you all to Kaurna country and welcome you to this evening's gathering. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for the welcome to the country, and I extend the welcome from the Synod as well. We thank the Covenanting Committee for their hard work in preparing this evening's service. We give a special welcome to First Peoples to our evening tonight. Just a couple of housekeeping matters. One is there are reflection cards placed on every seat, and later in the service you'll be given an opportunity to fill one of the, there's 3 reflection cards asking 3 different questions, and you'll be given an opportunity to write your reflection. They'll be collected up and we have people ready to collect them and placed on this coolerman out the front here. And also just a note that during the service there'll be a time of reflection, and unannounced we'll be playing the song Yanakanai, which is an Adnyamathanha word, and the song is in Adnyamathanha language, and it's a song of welcome and invitation. And on this evening, when we recall the 30th anniversary of the signing of the covenant between United Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress and the Assembly of the Uniting Church in Australia, I think it's an appropriate set of words. So our first person speaking and reflecting this evening is the chair of National Congress, Reverend Mark Kickett. Thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you very much. It's very much an honour for me to have been asked to share, given the fact that I'm not a South Australian, I'm a West Australian, and I remember the old State of Origin footy games. It was pretty ferocious, and we didn't like the Crow Eaters, and so it'll be pretty ferocious there at Subiaco Oval or in its heyday here at Footy Park, and of course we hated the Victorians even more, so we were bonded together as brothers there. But it's an honour to speak on what's been we're the South Australian story, and I'm probably not the best person served, given I've got Mum Champ here, Uncle Ken and Uncle Dean's here somewhere, and they all know the story probably far better than I ever could. But I was privileged to come and be a part of that story, and as I reflect on what that has been like, and particularly my journeys around the country, I'm seeing a wonderful commitment by South Australia in its stance that it has taken to maintain its relationship with Congress, because one of the key things about the whole fact of the covenant is that we want to walk together. We want to journey together. And like we say in the basis of union, because we are pilgrims on a journey looking to get to that goal, that time where the celebration and everything will be worth it all. As the old song says, the old hymn says, it'll be worth it all when we see Jesus and when we stand together as a united voice in that. But we live out that opportunity and that destination now as we do that. The journey of the covenant has taken so many turns, and we know that it was from 1982 at Crystal Creek in Townsville. And at that time, it was around when and I was a young Baptist student at the time in Brisbane in 1982 and 83 actually, and that's when I think that there was the black rights around things that were, because you had the Black Panther movement and so many other things that were starting to make the consciousness aware of this divide that was happening between First Australians and everyone else that has come along since then. And I was privileged to have been in the early days when Reverend Charles was at the Paddington Uniting Church, and Aunty Jean Phillips and Aunty Ruth Hegarty and so many others, and of course Pastor Don Brady, who were a part of that early movement. And John Sallow's not here, I don't think, but some of you may know John Sallow, who's our pastor out at Port Augusta. But John Sallow, he's a Papua New Guinea fellow, was the young pastor that relieved Reverend Charles so that he could be released into ministry to begin the journey of Congress. So that's a really wonderful story, that here is John with us here now in Port Augusta in South Australia. That has taken us into that journey. So we've travelled on so many and so many challenges that have been before the church, and it wasn't an easy journey. It took a number of our assemblies as conversations were made all around this whole new beginning. And of course initially they called it the Black Congress, in keeping with the mood of the day and the journey that they felt that Aboriginal Island Australia and the journey that it was on. And so that began, and so through the 7th Assembly in 1994, they formalised the covenant through the exchange of statements and gifts, and particularly the sacred painting, through the sacred painting that we now know as and I think we've got, this one here. And of course there are covenant instruments and a number of other things. Now, I'll just ask that young fellow over there to stand up. Just stand up quickly, John Sallow. Stand up. You only just walked in. It's only because I was talking about you, John, so I needed people to see who you are. And the reason I was talking about you, because you were at Paddington when Reverend Charles was released from his ministry, and you went into the Paddington Uniting Church. And I was only a first-year Baptist student at the time. I just turned 21. And so I do remember those. You may sit down now, but it's okay. Yeah, we'll give you some money later, it's all right. Yeah. There's a bloke by the name of Hugh Mackey who wrote a best-selling book called Reinventing Australia. And it analysed with forensic skill what was happening in our society. And from there he went into another launching of another book called Advance Australia Where? Where is the journey from colonisation taken and the challenges that it has brought with it, and to where we make the comment, we are the lucky country, and all these things that we have in our lives that can take us on this wonderful journey of utopia and all this sort of stuff, but we forgot about the blood and the pain and the hurt and the challenge upon which this lucky country has been built. And so he writes about that, and the question is, Advance Australia Where? While we enjoy unprecedented levels of prosperity and the promise of more to come, yet there's still the battling epidemic of depression and taking on record levels of debt and the yearning for a deeper sense of meaning in our lives. Many Australians complain about feeling powerless and isolated, and Mackay sees some encouraging signs that learning how to absorb the impact of the revolutionary changes that have reshaped us. The covenant was such a movement to bring awareness and bring a challenge to those who are the carriers of this gospel of unity, this gospel of peace, this gospel of hope, this gospel of love, and the way forward in which we can secure a better humanity for all of us. We are the carriers. And someone said to me a few weeks ago at one of our national execs, if the carriers drop the bundle, who else is going to carry the story? And each one of you are here because there is a reason why you came, because you believe that story. You want to be a part of that story. And so the challenge is for us as the carriers of the covenant story, how important it is for us to take that individually and corporately as we move forward. To me, what is the simplicity of the covenant? And I kind of have a sense, and maybe I look at it too straightforward. But in my mind, and in how I think, it has to be shaped, should be shaped, was shaped. Maybe it needs reshaping. But here is Congress. Here is the church. The job of Congress here was to go from being a mission field to become a mission force, and to be taking the gospel of Christ to Aboriginal people, Aboriginal Island people, by Aboriginal Island people. What was the job of the church? To resource so we could be released to do that. And somewhere along the line, the church has decided to swallow us up in their machine. And we are struggling to fight out and find our way out so that we can be released. And I say that on a national scale. I'm not saying that about South Australia at all. But I'm saying that's a challenge to the whole of the church, to not forget why we came into a relationship with the covenant. Advance the covenant where? Well, in my opinion, the church talks about revival. We need reviving. People's hearts need to be stirred and to know the life that the great Creator wants for all of us. Well, I think there needs to be a commitment to revive the covenant in itself. There has to be a realigning. Somewhere along the line, it's lost its shape and it's lost its form and it's gone. And I'll tell you this now, that in my role as the National Leader of Congress, I've had a number of comments come to me that say, one, the Charles Harris story is no longer relevant to the church, and two, we don't need regional councils anymore. And I'm not making that up. So what are we here to celebrate tonight? Yes, it is exciting, and I don't want to take away from that. But I want to also remind us not to lose the direction forward of why we are here, why we have believed in the covenant, why we are standing by Uncle Ken and Mum Champ and our Aboriginal leaders that are connected into the South Australian Synod. Yes, there has to be a realignment, there has to be a revival, there has to be a renewal of the covenant. But also let me say this to encourage you, if you think I'm being a bit grumpy with you, which hopefully I'm not, I've been really encouraged by South Australia's commitment to its relationship of walking together with our people, and a commitment to maintaining those regular links, regular communications, regular gatherings, and a realisation that the story is not just one story, but it is both stories. And we are all gatekeepers. We are all covenant keepers together in this journey together. Folks, I don't want to say any more. I've probably said too much because I'm taking away my thunder of what I'm going to be saying at Assembly. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker is the Reverend Dr. Aunty Denise Champion, who's our Theologian-in-Residence at Uniting College. And but just as Aunty Denise comes up, also Mark talked about the relationship of the South Australian Synod to Congress. I just want to mention respectfully the work of one of the former General Secretaries, Merle Harrison, who put the structures in place to ensure that I think that we were able to get the Congress off to a good start and continue to have important, just decisions in place that continue to this day. So thank you, Merle, for the work you did as well.
Nanga. In my language, that means hello. And if we were feeling okay, I'd be saying Wandu, which means I'm good. Or if we weren't feeling good, and that's quite okay to say, we'd say Ridney, I'm not feeling good. So I'm feeling good tonight. So that means I just want to... I'd like always to take advantage of speaking in my language whenever I can. The first day of school this year, my sister and I went and picked up our grandchildren at Augusta Park Primary School, and one of my little grannies jumped in the car and just out of the blue he said, "Nana, our teacher," his name is Yura, "our teacher said we have to learn to speak our language, because if we don't speak our language, we'll lose our culture." That's the next generation saying that. Or not the next generation, it's the generation after. It's the grandchildren that are saying that. And so I always take advantage, and I encourage everybody in this room always to speak your first language. You know, it's the language, it's our mother tongue. It's the languages that Creator has given to us. So I would encourage everybody to speak your mother tongue whenever you can and whenever you're given the opportunity. I feel a bit conferenced out because I spoke at the, did the keynote speaking at the Ansets conference, and that was about reimagining the church through Anyamatan's eyes. And so I was given the freedom just really to talk from my own heart and from my own head space about how I see the church and the opportunity to actually reimagine how the church should be. I remember Vincent Donovan, I read his book one time, Reimagining Evangelism. And in his book, he was a missionary that went to Africa, and worked with the Maasai people. And it was a Catholic compound that and over there in the middle of Africa they had the Catholic robes and celebrated the Catholic Eucharist. And after 100 years, not one convert. So they decided that they would go, Vincent Donovan and the priests would go and just visit the communities and sit with them. And after a while, they began to pick up some of the language. And of course, after a while, a strong church grew with the Maasai people. They looked different, they sounded different, and they celebrated the Eucharist differently. So there were lots of things to celebrate because the church was growing. It was different. There's a little, I guess when I think about my journey in this church, this is my home. I always say this is my home. The Uniting Church has always been my home. From when I was a little kid, living in Quorn and going to Sunday school there growing up, and then my faith journey has always been with this church. And I was so pleased when Reverend Charles Harris did his journeying around and inviting churches to come on this journey with him. This journey, a new journey, it was a new journey, and there was an invitation for all churches to come and join this journey of covenanting. And it was the Uniting Church were the ones that took up the invitation. So I was really pleased about that. And now, I guess, the opportunity is for us now, as Mark, my son, said, look, where is this road now going to lead us? I don't know, you may well have heard this story about the Gumtree couple, Wira Arapa, and how these two Gumtree couples stood side by side, and they procreated and had little Gumtree saplings coming out all around them. And one day, strangers came and cut a road in between the Gumtree couple, separated them. And they couldn't, excuse me. And after a while, they couldn't, no other little Gumtree saplings grew. So they couldn't, future was for them, there was no future. And if there's, I guess for us, this road that separated the two, and in Adjamanta we always say Nganga, Anacha, Yura, Widarapa, Ikatamanga. That was their home. That's where they lived together. It was their home. And what were they to do now that there was this road that has separated them? And no opportunity for the future. I guess we could all ask ourselves that question when we think about our relationships in the Uniting Church here and with Congress. Now we have the Congress, and I guess we, Uncle Ken and I, we seem, and even Jordan, our young one coming up there, and Uncle Mark, we seem to be strong leaders, but I need to let you know that we're very fragile. We're very fragile, and we need, our brothers and sisters to stand alongside of us and journey with us Wherever this road may take us, we don't know. But I'm always encouraged, and it was the late, my very dear mentor and elder, Aunty Vonda Last. She taught me and mentored me, and she said something to me one day. We were humming a tune, you know, and she picked it up, the tune that we were humming, and she said, "Oh, I've got the Yankunytjatjara words to that song, and it was about come unto me, and I will answer thee, and show you great and mighty things which thou knowest not." Those words, which thou knowest not, they were an eye-opener for me, because here I was thinking, yeah, I know something a little bit about the church and a little bit about this and that, but in actual fact, we know very little, and that's okay, because Creator will show us the way. Creator is the one that reveals us which way we should go. And so, you know, for us as people, just need to be faithful. When I went to Johannesburg for the Uniting Church and Methodist Women's Conference some time ago now, their theme was Bambalela, Bambalela, beautiful African word, Bambalela, never give up, never give up. And I think that's what we are called. It's a calling for us. So we haven't really got any choice in it. It's a calling. God has called us to be together on this journey. And I just want to encourage you all. And there are people that have faithfully served us in the roles of Gen secretaries and moderators over the past and have led us very faithfully, and have always, I've found them always to have been, what's the word, to the covenant, faithful to the covenant. Is there more that we can do? Of course there is. There's always more that we can do. And we have to be challenged in that and not be afraid. Don't be afraid to step out and, talk and say to you, talk to us. Go to Melissa's church out at Salisbury and, spend time with your brothers and sisters. That's what we are. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. And it's very challenging. The work of covenanting is very challenging, and we're always needing to be resourced. But we need to be thankful for the ways in which we have been able to gather together. And tonight, it's a wonderful celebration of being together. And I just want to encourage you in your journey in covenanting just to continue. And there's always more room on our covenanting committee. I know Graham and Anne and others on our covenanting committee look like, they're always welcoming people. But also, there's opportunity in your churches, to raise the banner, talk about covenanting in your churches, not to be afraid to do that, but to step out in faith, knowing that, Christ is going before us and he's showing us the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Aunty Denise, and we're now going to have a time of quiet reflection, and during that time Vonda Shepherd will lead us in song. Thank you. At least that's what my running sheet says. No? Sorry? Oh, it's up on the screen. Oh, Vonda Last. Sorry, Vonda Last. Sorry, that's all. Yeah, sorry. Yes. Is Vonda in the house? Or? I'm looking at the Graham because. Ken, I'm happy for you to get up. You're gonna sing for us, Ken? Why are you doing it?
Jordan will.
Sorry, Jordan will sing.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's all right. No, welcome, Ken.
Thanks.
Uncle Ken.
I'll just.
You happy to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Just this is look. What in the absence of Vonda, we'll have Jordan to get up and share a song. But before he does, what I'd like to do, because this is a sort of a reflection time, but one of our heroes has passed away this week, and Reverend Dr. Gondara, and I'd like, before Jordan does that, if we can just spend a minute in silence as we remember him. Thank you. And Jordan will just sing a song of maybe a reflection and tribute to Reverend Dr. Gondara.
Amazing grace shall always be my song of praise, for it was grace that brought my liberty. I do not know just why Christ came to love me so. Beyond all my faults and saw my needs. I shall forever lift my eyes to Calvary to view the cross where Jesus died for me. and saw my needs. Amazing grace shall always be my song of praise, for it was grace that brought my liberty. I do not know just why Christ came to love me so. He looked beyond all my faults and saw my needs. I shall forever lift my eyes to Calvary to view the cross where Jesus died for me. How marvelous grace that caught my falling soul. He looked beyond all my faults and saw my needs. He looked beyond all my faults and saw my needs.
Thank you, Jordan. On the program, good evening, everybody. But on the program, it's got a theme alongside my name: living the covenant. And I don't think I've got a theme, but I've certainly got something to say. It's been an amazing journey. There's been ups and there's been downs. There's been twists and all kinds. Using the metaphor of the road, I guess there's been much of a journey, and there's been some giants amongst within that journey. Some amazing people from Congress, from the Uniting Church. There's been some amazing people, and I think that's what I celebrate tonight. That's what I celebrate. You know, while tonight is a celebration, there's kind of a bittersweet about it. You know, after August, we lose the position of a covenanting officer. So we lose an important position, a role, a function within Synod, the covenanting officer that was physically present. And so amidst the celebration, there's this little bit of sadness that I think I need to acknowledge. However, I look forward to what the future might bring in regards to the continuing journey and what covenanting may look like and feel like and how it will work. So I look forward to those conversations. The Congress was born of God. It was born of God. God had a purpose for Congress. And God had chosen the uniting church. And that's not a coincidence. That was a purpose-filled thing that just is so important. The Congress, as we heard before, it was originally had a vision for a black church. Conversations were had for a number of years. And it's interesting being in the corridors of those conversations. I mean, my role was just being present. I had no decision-making power or any authority, but I was present, listening and watching. And it's interesting being in that position, and some of the Congress people were saying, well, all we want from them is just to give us the resources, and we'll determine how we do our ministry. And some of our old wise men were saying, we need a relationship. We need to do things this way. And so there were some interesting conversations that I've had the privilege of hearing. And some of the things that were said, you know, that the church has built itself, its institutions, its churches on stolen land that was never ceded. And so there was lots of conversations, difficult conversations. But finally, in 1994, the covenant was signed, which led to much celebration. But there was quite a few different kinds. There was quite a different understanding about what the covenant meant, or what it was all about. Many Congress people understood it as an equal relationship in all areas, at all levels of the church, because Congress was always on about self-determination. What was needed for us within the structure of the church was something different from the handouts and welfare mentality that the government had forced First Peoples into and been doing for 180 or so years. And of course the UCA had a different understanding, and it took a while to grasp. Well, for me it did. What did the covenant, what did it all mean? Some said it was about equal relationships, others said it was about relationships, and I think it's about many things. And I think as people on a journey, we're trying to discover what that might mean. But we're on a journey, and it's one heck of a journey, as you know, as we've heard Mark, the National Chair, talk about. So, like Aunty Denise, I love this church. And it's one of the churches that dare to struggle with the issues. And that's important. So, that's about it. I wait for the next chapter, the next journey, whatever that may be, whatever it might look like. And God willing, I'll be present. So, thanks.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Ken. We now just take a moment of quiet to reflect for a moment or two. And then we'll be hearing from our ex-president and former moderator, Dr. Deirdre Palmer. But let's just take a moment to be still.
Good evening. Thank you, Uncle Alan, for your welcome to country, and I want to acknowledge the Kaurna people, the sovereign First Peoples of the lands on which we gather. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to honour their continuing culture amongst us from time immemorial. I also pay my respects to all First People gathered here tonight. Thank you for the invitation to speak tonight as we commemorate and celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Covenant. And on this 30th anniversary of living the Covenant, my overwhelming response is gratitude. Gratitude to the leaders and members of the Uniting Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress for your willingness to be open to a covenant relationship in the Uniting Church, to walk together as First and Second Peoples. Gratitude for the friendships and the relationships that are at the heart of the Covenant and that have grown over the years. Grateful for people's openness to sharing their stories of life and faith, of pain and strength. Being in a covenant relationship has invited us as a church into a fullness of life that would not have been possible if it weren't for this commitment to the covenant. Today, as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the covenant, we are still seeking to live out the prayer prayed by Pastor Bill Hollingsworth, the chair of the UAICC, in 1994 when the covenant statement was approved. This is what he prayed. We pray that God will guide you together with us in developing a covenant to walk together practically so that the words of your statement may become a tangible expression of his justice and love for all creation. We ask you to remember this covenant by remembering that our land is now also sustaining your people by God's grace. I am grateful for the inspiring leaders of the UAICC who have shaped our life as a church and a nation. And in reflecting on the people who've been such significant leaders in the life of our church and Congress, I also feel a sense of loss that so many of them are no longer with us. And as we acknowledge tonight the most recent loss of Reverend Dr. Gondera, whose teaching, whose passionate advocacy and prophetic challenge to the churches and the nation have called us to repentance, to reform and to renewal. In our ongoing covenant relationship, I know this is an important part for Congress and for the Uniting Church. It highlights the importance of developing young leaders who stand on the shoulders of these leaders who've gone before us, and the importance of our intergenerational community supporting them in ways that will be empowering. Living the covenant for us as a church means an embodied experience and deeper connection to creation. Many of us who are second peoples have been transformed through the experiences of walking on country. I recall walking on country with Aunty Denise and hearing her stories, watching the sunrise over Ikara as she tells the Adnamatna story of the coming of the light, and her leading us in the singing of the light of Christ has come into the world. Being with Aunty Denise on country has changed the way I see that country and other parts of this continent. Aunty Denise speaks of sharing the stories of First Peoples that invites us into long memory of God in this land. Thank you. I've been part of a walking on country at Rauken with young adults from National Young Adult Leaders Conference in 2019. Their lives were transformed by that experience. Young adults from across the Uniting Church. We were welcomed to Nurrunjeri country by Uncle Ken and Jordan and Sean. I was particularly struck by the gracious way you invited us onto country, and the challenging stories of the impact of the church and the promotion of colonial views and theology on the culture and life of the Nurrunjeri people, and the resistance and strength of the Rauken community to connect with land and culture. I've also had the wonderful opportunity to walk on country at La Prena with our Congress leaders Alison Overeem and Grace and Ayla Williams, young women, Palawa women. We were welcomed to country and into a cleansing, healing space. Alison shared their living narrative of struggle, the call to justice that we need to hear and act on, and their stories of healing, light and hope. They invited us, and they invite us today, to continue to walk together, hearing, sharing and respecting stories of First Peoples and embracing the gift that First Peoples history and culture is in the life of the Uniting Church. Living the covenant includes listening and being alongside our First Nations sisters and brothers in the sorrow, the grief and the loss that continues to impact their lives in the form of intergenerational trauma of losing land, language and culture, and the impacts of government policy and the stolen generation and the people who are dying far too soon. The day of mourning that we observe on the Sunday before January the 26th is an expression of this. Living the covenant involves truth-telling, being honest about the impacts of colonisation, of colonial theology, and the dispossession of land and culture. The preamble is part of reshaping the narrative about this country and God's presence and activity in this nation land, in this ancient land. Sure, many of you have read the preamble to the Constitution of the Uniting Church, and within it we affirm a significant theological foundation. The words read, "The First Peoples had already encountered the Creator God before the arrival of the colonisers. The Spirit was already in the land, revealing God to the people through law, custom and ceremony. The same love and grace that was finally and fully revealed in Jesus Christ sustained the First Peoples and gave them particular insights into God's ways." The preamble also recognises the Church's complicity in colonisation. They were complicit, it says, in the injustice that resulted in many of the First Peoples being dispossessed from their land, their language, their culture and their spirituality. The preamble calls us to follow God's call to seek a renewal of its life as a community of first and second peoples. In the preamble, it speaks of us having a destiny together, praying and working together for a fuller expression of our reconciliation in Jesus Christ. An outworking of the preamble and our covenant relationship has been our affirmation of the Uluru Statement of the Heart and its call for voice, treaty and truth-telling. A significant part of our covenant relationship in the past and the present and into the future is sharing in partnership with Congress in advocating for justice, equity and closing the gap. It has been a privilege for me in my time as President and some of my time as moderator to share in our ministry with Reverend Mark Kickett, who's now the National Chair of UAICC. It's been an honour to work with you on that, Mark. Some of the current advocacy through the Uniting Church is found in the document, and I brought a show and tell, Our Vision for a Just Australia. This was first produced in 2018, latest version 2021, and watch out for the version that will probably be coming out in 2024. Our Vision for a Just Australia has 7 foundations, and the first foundation is a first people's heart. And listen to this vision that we are invited to step into. Our vision is that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are nurtured and sustained by God before invasion, are celebrated at the very heart of what it means to be Australian. That First Peoples' sovereignty is affirmed. That First Peoples have a voice in decision-making of our country and are living out their right to self-determination. And as First and Second Peoples, we walk together, creating socially just and culturally safe relationships, listening and learning from one another. Living the covenant into the future, we need to strengthen our actions for justice, healing and reconciliation. And we know this is not an abstract call. It is seen expressed daily in our relationships with one another. It's seen when we call out racism. It's seen when we contribute to the shaping of an Australian nation which tells the truth of our history, of the devastating effects of colonisation in undermining First Peoples' culture, language and spirituality, and the injustices that continue to be perpetrated. It includes us advocating for First Peoples' voice to be heard in determining their future, to deepen our relationships based on reconciliation that arises from justice and leads to healing, and to celebrate First Peoples, their culture, law and custom, their connection to the land and their resilience and survival as the oldest continuing culture in the world. In living the covenant, we celebrate the marks of the Congress in raising up and strengthening connection to culture, land, story and language, in creating healing places and spaces for First Peoples, and your passion for justice arisen from a holistic understanding of the gospel of Christ. And this is seen in Reverend Charles Harris's theology in the book Struggling for Justice and other statements he's made, a holistic understanding of the gospel of Christ, and in the work of Reverend Dr. Gondera, another show and tell in Let My People Go, series of reflections on Aboriginal theology. For Second People, being in covenant calls us to recognise the promises we have made, and Mark's already referred to this tonight, that have not been fulfilled, and the expectations that have not been realised. At the upcoming Assembly next week, Congress is calling for a revival of the covenant, including a covenant revival working group that will set up, that will hear stories of what worked well and not so well since the covenant agreement was signed in 1994, to establish how Congress may build up a capital and income base so that Congress ministry can grow and flourish, and report back to the 18th Assembly, it seems a long way away, but with stories, ideas, principles and proposals, so that together we, the Uniting Church and the UAICC, can live out the gospel through a redesign and revival of the covenant. Our commitment to a covenant relationship between First and Second Peoples is one of the defining elements of who we are as the Uniting Church. Our commitment to the covenant arises from the community that we share in Christ and the activity of the Holy Spirit, bringing us to confront, confess, and mourn the dispossession of First Peoples, to face the injustice of the past and the present, and to seek transforming relationships toward the vision of walking together. As Second Peoples renewing the covenant, we reiterate the words spoken by President Jill Tabart in 1994. We seek to journey together in the true spirit of Christ as we discover what it means to be bound to one another in a covenant. Our living the covenant into the future is about participating in the ongoing activity of the Holy Spirit, generating hope and courage, challenging us to live lives of love, justice and compassion, participating in the Holy Spirit's work of weaving together, picking up our incoming President's theme, weaving together relationships based on mutuality, love, trust and Christ's liberating hope. I want to conclude with a quote from Reverend Dr. Gondara, who calls us as Australians to renewal. He said this a long time ago, but it still applies to us today. He said, God is seeking Australian leaders who have a new heart, a new mind and a new spirit, who will lead our nation to the kind of unity which is built on justice and love. May this be so among us.
Thank you, Deirdre, and you'll see opportunity for some more reflection while we listen to the song Yanakanai. Thank you.
Yanakanai, 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 Wimalanga Ikapalam. Yanakanai, 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 Wimalanga Ikapala. Arawatana, Arawatana. Arawatana, God is here. Arawatana, 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 God is here. Come, 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 gather, we will sit together. Come, 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 gather, we will sit together. Arawatana, 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 God is here. Arawatana, 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 God is here.
We're now going to hear from some younger voices reflecting on living out the covenant. There's a list there, but I think Jordan might be first cat off the rank.
I guess like to just start by acknowledging the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, but I also acknowledge Uncle Alan Edwards for the welcome, but our connection to Kaurna country as well that we have through my grandmother. Also acknowledging the other Aboriginal groups that are present here today. I actually was only really going to sing a song after Sean and Rodney had both spoken. So, but I guess a little bit about myself. I've grown up, if you don't know me, within the South Australian Synod. I've grown up within the Uniting Church and Congress since just before the Covenant in 1992. So, Dad's a Uniting Church minister, grew up with people like Aunty Denise's children. And I guess for me, just that sense of family, like Aunty Denise mentioned as well. But going back to Raucan, and Raucan is the community that we're from, and it was established as a Congregational Methodist mission. So we have that connection there as well. So I've had the pleasure of working alongside many of you here, and being what they call a young leader within Uniting Church and Congress. I do sit on a number of committees around South Australia, but also Australia with the National Congress as well. But really, I was relying on the other two, and Jesse and Joe. What I might do is go over, and where I feel safe is behind the guitar, even though my voice is a bit crackly at the moment, but we'll go from there. I also do want to acknowledge some of those that have passed, and the most recent one, but all of those that were a part of my growing up within Congress and the Uniting Church, and people that have left Congress, not just and gone to glory, but to and they've gone on to other things as well. So I've been a part of Congress for a long time. So, but so over in Western Australia, Uncle Seelan, and we work right around the country, and just thinking of all those people. And I think earlier this year we had the passing of Aunty Lurleen Blackman as well. So just acknowledging some of those leaders that have gone, and those that are still with us, like old Papa Ken is still around, and up in Arnhem Land, and there's a few others that are still around. So, but just acknowledging them and leading the way for people like myself and others. But I'm going to go and grab the guitar. And that wasn't me. This song that I'm going to sing, I think sort of fits well with why we're here and celebrating the covenant. But if you listen to the words, and my in-laws actually, they sing this all the time, and I'll try and do it justice. We're all gathered here because we all believe. If there's a doubter in the crowd, we ask you not to leave. Ooh, give a listen to this story. Ooh, hear the message that we bring. waves well up inside you. Lift your voice with us and sing. Accept him with your whole heart. Ooh, and use your own two hands. With one, reach out to Jesus, and with the other, bring a friend. Many know him well, others just by name. If you don't know for what he stands, you've really much to gain. With that low life is quite a mountain. Ooh, and these are common words but true. We aren't quite a mountain, but he's moved us near to you. Accept him with your whole heart. Ooh, and use your own two hands. With one, reach out to Jesus, and with the other, bring a friend. With one, reach out to Jesus, and with the other, bring a friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. And thank you, Uncle Alan, for your welcome this evening. I would like to acknowledge the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the Adelaide Plains, and pay my respects to elders past and present, and all First Nations people here tonight. Thank you for the honour of speaking this evening. I have grown up with the Covenant, and I am proud to be part of a church that took this step 30 years ago and takes seriously the call in the Uluru Statement from the Heart. When I think about what covenanting might mean and look like into the future, I think it must be guided by the Holy Spirit and coming from its centrality to our communal identity in the uniting church. This is not an afterthought. Learning from the past will inform the future of the covenant. Covenanting is relational. Some of covenanting happens in our local congregations, and I think of opportunities I have had to build relationships in this context. For me, it has also been in my professional context. I was very fortunate to work in Aboriginal health for 12 months when I was completing my training as a general practitioner. This was an amazing experience and a highlight in my life. The Uniting Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress is something I already greatly valued in the Uniting Church. However, working in the Aboriginal health sphere, with its challenges particularly as the pandemic broke out, I was sustained by my faith and the knowledge that the church I was a part of took the impacts of colonisation seriously and was not blind to the ongoing impacts on our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander sisters and brothers. We must never cease in our work to close the gap. I want to briefly touch on some of the significant moments for me with covenanting as I have grown up in faith because I think this is some of what will enrich the covenant moving forward and encourage young people in the ongoing covenant relationship. Opportunities to listen and learn from elders, including Aunty Denise Champion, Uncle Mark Kickett, Uncle Ken Sumner, Uncle Alan Edwards, as well as my peers, including Jordan Sumner, Sean Wheatshire, Tylee Leondaris, Rani Lester, and Candice Champion. And this has been including at events such as NCYC, KCO, SACO, NIARC, and Uniting Women. I also recall being a member of the 13th Assembly in 2012 and joining in solidarity on the steps of Parliament. I was privileged to attend the President's Conference in Darwin and learning more about the covenant there. Also attending the UAICC conference at Nanyara, sharing in Day of Mourning services, being part of the Synod of SA in 2023 when we supported the proposal regarding the campaign to raise the age of criminal responsibility in South Australia, and the advocacy around the voice and the response to the referendum. Some of this is what we should be continuing, creating intentional moments and events, spaces for growing, joy, lament, and listening. But this is not the only thing. It is the everyday steps that we take together, guided by the radical love of Jesus. I am so grateful that we have the covenant, and I hope and pray we can live into it. I am particularly excited about what the Assembly meeting holds next week as we look to proposals around the covenant, guided by the Assembly's theme, Threads of Love. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Jesse and I join with those who have gone before in passing their respect. Thank you, Uncle Alan. Pay my respects to the Kaurna people and to all Aboriginal people in the room. And really, whatever I have to say about covenanting, it is about acknowledging and paying my respects to friendships that have changed my life and the life of my family. I think of Aunty Lester, and when my son Job was born, the way that she would hold him and she just rocked and said, my grandson, my grandson. We've been welcomed into family and also taught how to be family. I think of opportunities to learn and to live in community and to see within Congress at times when conflict or would happen in families or in community, and I would think from my reference point, well, this is it. There's no way back from this. There's no way will these people ever get in the room together again. And then the next day, showing me what it is to be family, showing me what it is to be committed to each other. I think of times of seeing the Dusty Feet dance and even being invited to participate in songs, important dances like Took the Children Away, and the way that will be transformed, something that I understand and know about in a book or from history, but all of a sudden I'm invited and drawn in to participate in this story and to have some appreciation for this really complicated, difficult story that is part of each of our experience. My children have been given names that mean everything to them. When they go into Port Augusta, they are not just Job and Pell, they are Nindi and Charlie, and that means so much to them. I think of the incredible privilege it is to sit at Aunty Denise's feet. And to count the hours that I've had with Aunty hearing her think out loud and the incredible privilege that is, I can't put it into words. But it's also her witness and the witness of others. I've seen Aunty Denise smash through walls that maybe she shouldn't have had to, but she did that so that others could. I've stood with Aunty Denise when things in community have gone very poorly, when things feel and look very ugly, but being able to find hope in breaking bread together and serving the community together. These are things that have changed me forever. They're friendships that have changed my life. but they're also friendships. I think that covenanting is friendships with responsibility. In narrative therapy, it talks about the person isn't the problem is the problem. But the solution is not only personal. Something about the covenanting joins us to walk together and to take seriously that we do have a destiny together. And there is friendship and there is laughter, but there is also responsibility. So I will always be incredibly indebted. My life has changed forever, but I also feel this beautiful responsibility and joy that it is to be able to walk this covenant. So thank you.
It's an opportunity for you now to respond. I'm going to be a bit more directive than is on the sheet. I invite you to take the next 2 minutes to look at your reflection questions, your reflection cards, and not talk to anybody, and write down some of your reflections on what am I hearing, how can I continue to listen, and the question our local church could. I'll give you 3 minutes for that, and then I'll invite you to speak to your neighbours. So they should be on your chairs, and they've even given you biros. And those of you who've been good can now talk to your neighbour. But I'm always amused when you do this at those people who don't obey. And now you're warmed up, we'll collect the cards from you, your reflections. Those that we've got a few people with baskets, they're going to, yeah, you can keep it and take it home if you like. That's entirely fine. So I invite the, I haven't asked anyone to do the offering for ages because they don't do much anymore. But yeah, if you want to collect the offering, that'd be great. So I'm very amused because they're lined up like the stewards in the olden days, and we haven't got an organist to let us know what to do next. So we've invited Aunty Denise to share some closing thoughts. Thank you.
Well, where to from here? Where do we go? I just want to remind us one thing. There was a time in society and in the life of the church even when Aboriginal people were considered, we were left out. We were invisible and we were never seen. But I was reminded one day, the Spirit spoke very strongly to me, and I was reminded of an old parable that I'd heard many years ago as a child. And it was the parable of the lost coin. And, you know, you have the trilogy of the lost son and the lost sheep, and then the lost coin. The lost coin I never ever really gave much of a looking into, but of late it has meant a lot to me. And I think of that woman who had 10 coins, and she lost one. She lost one coin. And she started looking for that coin. She diligently swept. She swept and swept and searched for that one lost coin. I'm reminded that the Uniting Church, or the Church of today, will never ever be complete without Indigenous voices. And we have, contrary to what other people have often thought about us, that we were perhaps, you know, heathen and not really part of the, we needed to be converted and to become Christian, to be in the house, in God's sacred family. That little story reminds me over and over again now that we were always in the house. Indigenous people were always part of God's sacred family. And, you know, all of us together, we will never ever be complete until we restore the voices of Indigenous people. And that's what God is calling us to do with covenanting. Always to be diligently sweeping, 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 looking for ways to restore. And together, it's our calling. It's our calling. God is calling us. It's not me or Mark or Ken or Uncle Alan doing it, or Deirdre or General Sec. They're not called. It's God who is calling us to this. And it's a higher calling. So let us together continue. I always try and find a way to weave this in whenever I say, and to remind ourselves that we are a pilgrim people, always on the way.
And all that's left is for me to do a sending out prayer. I'd normally ask you to stand, but I'll let you stay seated for this. Oh, before I do that, I just want to acknowledge again the work of the Covenanting Committee, who've worked very hard to pull this together. And so thanks a lot. I think Graham, as the Covenanting Officer, has been running around a lot this week. Well done. Thank you to the members of Congress who have blessed us with your reflections this evening. I want to acknowledge the long history of commitment from Synod officers, executive officers, general secretaries, moderators in their part in keeping the covenant alive for the church, and we're truly grateful for that. And I acknowledge the hard work of the engagement team who are doing a range of things this evening and did a lot of work this week in preparing for tonight as well. Yes, Denise.
We'll do that for the sake of our grandchildren.
So, yes, we're doing it for the sake of our grandchildren, said Aunty Denise, but true. And also, one of the places we're doing significant formation for people in and understanding the covenant and its impact on ministry, of course, is at Uniting College, and we're grateful for a significant number of Uniting College faculty here, and they're hosting, they're a hub, but really they're where the action is on Monday and Tuesday for the conference on the preamble, which is a really, and we have a number of people who are speaking again on Monday and Tuesday, Aunty Denise and Uncle Ken, and Uncle Ken's speaking at Assembly too, as will Mark be. So hold them in your prayers. There's a lot happening in this next week. So from the preamble, in 1994, the Assembly discerned God's call and accepted the call to enter into an ever deeper covenantal relationship. This was so that all may see a destiny together, praying and working together for a fuller expression of our reconciliation in Jesus Christ. And thus the Church celebrates this covenantal relationship as a foretaste of the coming reconciliation and renewal, which is the end in view for the whole of creation. So go in peace to work for reconciliation between peoples and communities and in homes and in the lives of individuals. And may the God of peace bless, equip and strengthen you to live out the covenant. Amen. And you can continue the work of reconciliation and covenanting over supper. Thank you.
Who gets to work for bread? Who wants to get ahead? Who hands out equal rights?